Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Liberty. He looked at the big screen in front of him with worry. 3 months ago, his crew had left Earth to explore space for the first time. Now they had found something they never expected to see. A huge alien ship was coming toward them. It was 10 times bigger than the Liberty. The alien ship looked strange and smooth, like it was grown instead of built. Jake could see weapon ports that glowed with blue energy along its sides. "Captain, the alien ship is getting closer," said Lieutenant Amy Walsh. She sat at the navigation station watching her screens carefully. "It will be close enough to shoot at us in 12 minutes. Jake felt his stomach twist. The Liberty was just an exploration ship. They had some basic weapons, but nothing that could fight a ship that big. They were supposed to be exploring empty space, not meeting hostile aliens. Chief Engineer Pete Collins ran onto the bridge. His blue uniform had green coolant stains on it, and he looked worried. "Captain, we have big problems. The jump drive is still broken from when we went through that asteroid field yesterday. We cannot jump away from here." Jake looked at the alien ship on his screen again. It was moving in a pattern that looked like it was planning to capture them. The ship had strange designs on its hull that seemed to move and change as he watched. "How long until our jump drive works again?" Jake asked. "At least 6 hours, maybe more," Pete said. "I have been working on it all night, but the power couplings got damaged pretty bad. The communication system suddenly made noise. A voice came through the speakers. It did not sound human at all. It was too perfect, like a computer talking. Human. Vessel. This is the artificial intelligence designation Nexus 7 of the Corvani hegemony. You have entered restricted space. Prepare to be boarded and your crew processed for interrogation." Jake looked at his first officer, Commander Lisa Brown. She was a smart woman who had been in space for 15 years. Her face was serious, and Jake knew she was thinking the same thing he was. The Liberty had important information about Earth's location and defenses. If the aliens got that information, Earth could be in danger. "What can we do?" Jake asked his crew quietly. "We could try to run using our regular engines," Amy suggested, but her voice showed she did not think it would work. "Run from that thing?" Pete shook his head. "They probably have engines that are 50 times better than ours. We would never get away." Jake studied the big screen. The alien ship was moving, into position above them. It looked like they were planning a normal boarding operation, but something seemed strange about how careful they were being. Most hostile aliens in the stories Jake had heard would just attack right away. "Nexus 7, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Liberty. We are explorers, not fighters. What do you want with us?" The answer came right away. The artificial voice sounded confused. "Human Morrison, your vessel's configuration is unusual. Our scans show multiple backup systems and what appears to be modified equipment throughout your ship. Explain the purpose of these changes." Jake felt a small smile on his face. The alien AI had noticed something about human ships that might help them. Human engineers always expected things to break, so they built extra systems for everything. "What kind of modifications are they asking about?" Lisa asked, looking at her tablet computer. Pete grinned a little. "Maybe they found the coffee machine I connected to the shield generator. Or the way Tony rigged the waste system to give us backup air if the main life support fails," Amy added. Jake realized this might be their only chance. Humans built things differently than other species probably did. Maybe that difference could save them. "Nexus 7, these are not modifications. This is how humans always build ships. We call it adaptive redundancy." There was a long pause. Jake could almost hear the alien computer thinking. "Clarification required," Nexus 7 finally said. "Your vessel appears to have 17 different backup systems for important functions. Many use parts that were not designed for such purposes. This suggests either very bad design work or an expectation of massive system failures during normal use." "Which one do you think it is?" Jake asked. "The second option is unprecedented in our database of 847 known space-traveling species." Amy looked up from her station. "Captain, they are scanning us with some kind of special beam. They are really looking at our ship closely." Jake watched the alien ship on his screen. Even though it was much bigger and stronger than the Liberty, It was staying a respectful distance away. That seemed strange for a ship that was supposed to be capturing them. Nexus 7. What exactly do you find so interesting about our ship? Human Morrison. Your vessel's engineering shows what our analysis calls catastrophic failure preparation methodology. For example, your navigation system has 7 independent backup computers. 3 of them appear to be built from repurposed entertainment devices, Pete laughed. That would be Tony's work. He turned our old gaming computers into navigation systems when our main backup died last month. Furthermore, the AI continued, your ship's hull shows evidence of repairs using materials not present in your original construction. We detect atmospheric processors being used as structural support, communication arrays made from mining equipment, and what appears to be a food preparation device integrated into your primary power distribution network. That is our backup life support system, Jake explained. If our main systems fail, we can survive using kitchen equipment and the food-growing bays. The silence from the alien ship lasted much longer this time. Jake could feel his crew getting nervous. Were they making the situation better or worse? Human Morrison, Nexus 7 finally said. Its artificial voice had a new sound to it. It almost sounded worried. What kind of hostile universe do your species come from that requires such preparations? Jake realized the alien AI was trying to understand why humans built so many backup systems. To them, it must look like humans expected everything to break all the time, which, Jake thought, was actually true. The alien ship moved a little further away from them. Jake noticed that its weapon ports were not glowing as brightly as before. Maybe their conversation was actually working. Amy, are they still planning to board us? Jake asked. I do not think so, Captain. They have moved to a safer distance and their weapons are not targeting us anymore. Lisa looked at Jake with surprise. Are we actually talking our way out of this? Maybe, Jake said. But we need to be careful. One wrong word and they might decide we are too dangerous to let live. Pete was looking at his engineering displays. Captain, I am reading some strange energy patterns from their ship. It looks like they are running a lot of computer calculations. They are probably trying to figure out how our ship works, Jake said. The question is, what will they decide when they finish their analysis? The bridge was quiet except for the soft sounds of the ship's systems. Everyone was waiting to see what the alien AI would say next. Jake hoped that humanity's habit of preparing for the worst might actually save them this time. On the screen, the huge alien ship continued its scans. Jake could not help but think that this first meeting between humans and aliens was not going the way anyone had expected. Instead of a fight or immediate capture, they were having a technical discussion about engineering philosophy. Sir, Amy said quietly, I am detecting more ships on long-range sensors. They are still far away, but they are heading in our direction. Jake felt his heart sink. Even if they convinced this AI not to attack them, reinforcements were coming. They needed to resolve this situation quickly, or things might get much worse. How long until the other ships arrive? Jake asked. Jake. At least 2 hours, maybe 3, Amy replied. Jake looked at his crew. They were all depending on him to get them home safely. The Liberty was not a warship, and Earth had no idea where they were. If something happened to them out here, no one would ever know. All right, people, Jake said. We have 2 hours to convince an alien AI that humans are worth talking to instead of fighting. Any ideas? Commander Lisa Brown pulled up the ship's technical information on her tablet. She looked at all the strange ways they had fixed things over the past few months. Captain, they are asking about our modifications. Should I tell them about the coffee machine Pete connected to boost power to the shields? Or the way Tony connected the waste recycling system to provide backup life support? Pete added with a small smile on his face. Jake Morrison realized this might be their only advantage against the huge alien ship. The Liberty was not stronger or faster, but it was built in a way that confused the aliens. Nexus 7. These are not modifications. This is standard human engineering protocol. We call it adaptive redundancy. There was a long pause before the AI responded. Jake could almost hear the alien computer trying to understand what he meant. Clarification required, Nexus 7 said. Your vessel appears to have 17 different backup systems for critical functions. Many utilize components not designed for such purposes. This suggests either severe incompetence in your original design or an expectation of catastrophic system failures during normal operation. Which one do you think it is? Jake asked. The second option. Such design philosophy is unprecedented in our database of 847 known starfaring species. Lieutenant Amy Walsh looked up from her station. Her screens were showing lots of activity from the alien ship. Captain, I am reading some kind of scanning beam. They are really taking a close look at our ship. Jake watched the tactical display as the alien vessel moved closer. Despite being much bigger and more powerful, it was keeping what seemed like a respectful distance. It was like they were being careful not to get too close. Nexus 7. What exactly are you finding so interesting about our ship? Human Morrison. Your vessel's engineering exhibits what our analysis categorizes as catastrophic failure preparation methodology. For example, your navigation system has 7 independent backup computers, 3 of which appear to be constructed from repurposed entertainment devices. Pete could not help but laugh. That would be Tony's work. He turned our old gaming consoles into navigation computers when our primary backup failed last month. Tony Rodriguez was the ship's electronics specialist. He had a gift for making broken things work again using whatever parts he could find. Last month, when their backup navigation computer died, Tony had taken apart 3 old gaming systems and somehow made them work as a navigation computer. Furthermore, the AI continued, your ship's hull shows evidence of field repairs using materials not present in your original construction. We detect atmospheric processors being used as structural support, communication arrays fashioned from mining equipment, and what appears to be a food preparation device integrated into your primary power distribution network. That is our redundant life support system, Jake explained. If our main systems fail, we can survive off kitchen equipment in the hydroponic bays. The silence from the alien vessel stretched much longer this time. Jake began to wonder if they had said something wrong. Maybe the aliens thought they were lying about their ship's capabilities. Human Morrison. Nexus 7 finally responded. Its artificial voice carried a new tone that almost sounded like concern. What manner of hostile universe do your species originate from that requires such preparations? Jake looked around at his crew. They all seemed confused by the question. Earth was not particularly dangerous compared to what they had seen in space. Humans just like to be prepared for things going wrong. Nexus 7, we do not come from a particularly hostile universe. We just prepare for things to go wrong. Impossible. Our analysis indicates your vessel is designed to continue functioning after losing up to 73% of its primary systems. Only species facing extinction-level threats require such engineering redundancy. Pete stepped forward. He was the one who understood the ship's systems better than anyone. Captain, maybe I should explain the technical side. Jake nodded, and Pete activated the ship's communication array. Nexus 7, this is Chief Collins. The thing is, in human experience, if something can break, it will break, usually at the worst possible moment. Elaborate. Well, take our jump drive. It has 5 independent startup sequences, because the first time we tested it, the primary system failed right when we needed to escape a solar flare. The second time, the backup failed when we hit an ion storm. By the 4th modification, we just assumed everything would fail and built accordingly. Pete remembered those early test flights. Each time they thought they had fixed the problem, something new would break. Eventually, they just started building multiple ways to do everything. Amy added from her station, and our communications array can function using everything from our main transmitter to modified personal devices, because we learned the hard way that Murphy's Law applies double in space. Murphy's Law? The AI asked. Lisa smiled. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, at the worst possible time in the worst possible way. Jake thought about all the times Murphy's Law had proven true during their mission. Just yesterday, their jump drive had failed right when they needed to escape an asteroid field. Last week, their main communication system had died during a crucial system check. The week before that, their food processors had broken down when they were already running low on supplies. You have elevated mechanical pessimism to a philosophical principle, Nexus 7 said after another pause. Not pessimism, Jake corrected. Preparedness. We hope for the best but prepare for the worst. It has kept our species alive. Human Morrison, our scans now indicate that your ship can theoretically continue life support using only your food preparation systems and emergency lighting. Your navigation can function through 17 different backup methods. Your weapons, systems, the AI paused. Your weapon systems appear to be every piece of equipment on your ship, Pete grinned. Well, technically, anything can be a weapon if you are creative enough. Our mining lasers, our cutting torches, even our docking clamps can be weaponized in a pinch. This was true. The Liberty had been designed as an exploration ship, not a warship, but human engineers had made sure that every tool could serve multiple purposes. The mining lasers could cut through asteroids or enemy hulls. The cutting torches could repair damage or create it. Even the docking clamps could grab and crush, if needed. This is why our scans were inconclusive, Nexus 7 said. For the first time, there was something like understanding in its artificial voice. We were attempting to determine your ship's combat capabilities, but discovered that your entire vessel is both weapon and backup system simultaneously. Jake sensed an opportunity. If the aliens were confused about their capabilities, maybe they could use that confusion to avoid a fight. Nexus 7, what is your assessment of our ship now? The response came immediately, but with a tone that seemed almost respectful. Human vessel Liberty, your ship represents the most terrifyingly practical approach to space travel in our database. Any species that designs vessels expecting total system failure as a routine occurrence is not one to be engaged lightly. Lisa looked at Jake with surprise. Are they saying they are afraid of us? Not afraid, Jake said quietly. Cautious. There is a difference. Amy checked her sensors again. Captain, the alien ship has actually moved further away. They are maintaining a distance of 50,000 kilometers now. That was much further than before. Jake realized that their conversation was actually working. The aliens were not preparing to attack anymore. They were trying to understand what kind of threat the Liberty might represent. Nexus 7, are you saying you are reconsidering your boarding action? Human Morrison, our combat protocols are designed around predictable engagement parameters. Your vessel defies all standard tactical analysis. We cannot determine where your ship ends and your weapons begin. We cannot predict which systems are critical and which are decoys. Our targeting computers have identified 847 potential vital systems, when most vessels have fewer than 30. Pete whispered to Lisa. Should we tell them that half our redundant systems are just me fixing things with whatever I had lying around? Lisa shook her head firmly. That information might make them seem less threatening, but it might also make them seem like easy targets. Jake continued the conversation. Nexus 7, let me ask you something. In your experience, what is the most dangerous type of opponent? Unknown variables, unpredictable adversaries, species that do not conform to established tactical parameters. And what would you classify the UES Liberty as? The pause was longer this time. Jake could feel the tension on the bridge as everyone waited for the answer. Human Morrison, your vessel represents what our combat analysis systems classify as a paradox ship, a craft whose very existence contradicts logical design principles yet appears fully functional. Our tactical computers have never encountered such a configuration. Engaging you in combat would be inadvisable. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him. They had done it. They had convinced a superior alien force not to attack them simply by being confusing. So what happens next? Jake asked. Protocol suggests we should withdraw and report your vessel's existence to our superiors. However, this presents a problem. What kind of problem? How do we explain to the Corvani High Command that we encountered a human ship that appears to be simultaneously falling apart and completely indestructible? Captain Jake Morrison found himself in a very strange situation. He was trying to explain human nature to an artificial intelligence that controlled a ship powerful enough to destroy them in seconds. But instead of being afraid, the alien AI seemed to be the one who was worried. Nexus 7, we do not come from a particularly hostile universe. We just prepare for things to go wrong. Impossible, the AI replied. Our analysis indicates your vessel is designed to continue functioning after losing up to 73% of its primary systems. Only species facing extinction-level threats require such engineering redundancy. Chief Engineer Pete Collins stepped forward. He was the one who knew the ship better than anyone else. Captain, maybe I should explain the technical side? Jake nodded, and Pete activated the ship's communication system. Nexus 7, this is Chief Collins. The thing is, in human experience, if something can break, it will break, usually at the worst possible moment. Elaborate, the AI requested. Well, take our jump drive. It has 5 independent startup sequences. Because the first time we tested it, the primary system failed right when we needed to escape a solar flare. The second time, the backup failed when we hit an ion storm. By the 4th modification, we just assumed everything would fail and built accordingly. Pete remembered those early days of human space travel. Every test flight had taught them something new about what could go wrong. The first ships that left Earth had simple designs, but they kept breaking down. Engineers learned to add more and more backup systems until the ships looked nothing like the original plans. Lieutenant Amy Walsh added from her station, and our communications array can function using everything from our main transmitter to modified personal devices because we learned the hard way that Murphy's Law applies double in space. Murphy's Law? The AI inquired. Commander Lisa Brown smiled. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, at the worst possible time in the worst possible way. Jake thought about how true this was. Just last month, their food processors had broken down right when they were already running low on supplies. The month before that, their main computer had crashed during a critical navigation calculation. Every human who had ever been in space had stories like these. There was another long pause before Nexus 7 responded. You have elevated mechanical pessimism to a philosophical principle. Not pessimism, Jake corrected. Preparedness. We hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. It has kept our species alive. Human Morrison, our scans now indicate that your ship can theoretically continue life support using only your food preparation systems and emergency lighting. Your navigation can function through 17 different backup methods. Your weapon systems. The AI paused. Your weapon systems appear to be every piece of equipment on your ship. Pete grinned. Well, technically, anything can be a weapon if you are creative enough. Our mining lasers, our cutting torches, even our docking clamps can be weaponized. In a pinch. This was something humans had always been good at. Making tools serve multiple purposes. A wrench could fix things or be used as a hammer. A cutting torch could repair damage or create it. Even simple things like rope or tape could be weapons in the right situation. This is why our scans were inconclusive, Nexus 7 said, and for the first time, there was something like understanding in its artificial voice. We were attempting to determine your ship's combat capabilities, but discovered that your entire vessel is both weapon and backup system simultaneously. Jake sensed an opportunity. The aliens were not angry or aggressive anymore. They seemed genuinely confused and maybe even impressed by human engineering. Nexus 7, what is your assessment of our ship now? The response came immediately, but with a tone that seemed almost respectful. Human Vessel Liberty, your ship represents the most terrifyingly practical approach to space travel in our database. Any species that designs vessels expecting total system failure as a routine occurrence is not one to be engaged lightly. Lisa looked at Jake with amazement. Are they saying they are afraid of us? Jake shook his head. Not afraid, cautious, and I think that might be even better. Amy checked her sensors again. Captain, the alien ship has moved even further away. They are now maintaining a distance of 75,000 kilometers. That was 3 times further than when they had first started talking. The alien ship was clearly treating them as a serious threat, even though the Liberty was just a small exploration vessel. Nexus 7, are you saying you are reconsidering your boarding action? Human Morrison, our combat protocols are designed around predictable engagement parameters. Your vessel defies all standard tactical analysis. We cannot determine where your ship ends and your weapons begin. We cannot predict which systems are critical and which are decoys. Our targeting computers have identified 847 potential vital systems, when most vessels have fewer than 30. Pete quietly looked at the actual critical systems list on his tablet. There were really only about 12 systems that were truly essential to keep the ship running. Everything else was just backup or redundancy. But the aliens could not tell the difference. Furthermore, Nexus 7 continued, your engineering philosophy suggests a level of paranoia about system failure that implies either constant warfare or an environment so hostile that equipment failure is expected to occur multiple times during any given mission. That is not paranoia, Jake said. That is experience. Things break in space. The vacuum is hostile to everything we build. Radiation damages electronics. Micrometeorites punch holes in hulls. Temperature changes crack metal. We have learned to expect these things and plan for them. Your species has been in space for how long? The AI asked. About 200 years, Lisa answered. In 200 years you have developed engineering redundancy that exceeds species with 2,000 years of spaceflight experience. This suggests either remarkable learning capability or exposure to exceptionally challenging conditions. Jake realized the aliens were trying to figure out if humans were naturally smart or if Earth was a particularly dangerous place. The truth was probably both. Humans were good at learning from mistakes, and space travel had taught them a lot of hard lessons. Nexus 7. Let me ask you something. How many backup systems does your ship have? Our vessel has optimal redundancy. Critical systems have one backup. Non-critical systems rely on repair protocols. And what happens if both your primary and backup systems fail at the same time? There was a pause. Such a scenario has a probability of less than 0.01%. It is considered unlikely enough to ignore. Pete laughed. On a human ship we call that Tuesday. Explain. Multiple system failures happen to us all the time, Pete said. Just yesterday our jump drive failed, our backup navigation computer crashed, and our main communication array went offline all within 2 hours. We fixed everything using spare parts and kept going. You experienced 3 critical system failures simultaneously and continued your mission? We did not even consider stopping, Amy added. We just switched to backup systems and kept exploring. Jake could almost hear the alien computer trying to process this information. To them, multiple system failures would probably mean the end of a mission, or even the destruction of the ship. To humans, it was just another day in space. Human Morrison, Nexus 7 said slowly. Our tactical analysis programs are designed to predict enemy behavior based on logical responses to various situations. However, your species appears to respond to system failures not with retreat or distress calls, but with what you term creative solutions. That is correct, Jake said. This makes you unpredictable in a way that our computers cannot account for. If we were to damage your ship's engines, you might repair them with kitchen equipment. If we disabled your weapons, you might turn your mining tools into weapons. If we cut your communications, you might use personal devices to maintain contact. You are starting to understand us, Lisa said with a smile. No, Nexus 7 replied. We are starting to understand that we cannot understand you. And that makes you dangerous in a way we have never encountered before. The bridge fell quiet as the crew processed what the AI had just said. They had accidentally made themselves appear threatening simply by being prepared for things to go wrong. So what happens now? Jake asked. Protocol suggests we should withdraw and report your vessel's existence to our superiors. However, this presents a significant problem. What kind of problem? How do we explain to the Corvani High Command that we encountered a human ship that appears to be simultaneously primitive and advanced? How do we report that we could not determine your true capabilities because every system serves multiple purposes? How do we justify our withdrawal from engaging a single small exploration vessel? Jake realized the alien AI was having an existential crisis. It had been designed to analyze and defeat enemies, but humans did not fit into any category it understood. Nexus 7, maybe the problem is not with your analysis. Maybe the problem is that you are trying to analyze us as either friends or enemies, when we might be something else entirely. Explain. What if we are just different? Not better or worse, Not more or less dangerous, just different. What if instead of trying to figure out how to fight us, you tried to figure out how to understand us? The bridge of the Liberty fell silent as the crew processed what the alien AI had just said. Captain Jake Morrison realized they might have accidentally stumbled into a psychological advantage. The aliens were not treating them as enemies anymore. They were treating them as an unknown that could not be predicted or understood. Nexus 7, are you saying you are reconsidering your boarding action? Human Morrison, our combat protocols are designed around predictable engagement parameters. Your vessel defies all standard tactical analysis. We cannot determine where your ship ends and your weapons begin. We cannot predict which systems are critical and which are decoys. Our targeting computers have identified 847 potential vital systems, when most vessels have fewer than 30. Commander Lisa Brown quietly pulled up the ship's actual critical systems list on her screen. It showed only 12 truly essential components. She showed it to Jake, who had to keep himself from smiling. The aliens thought they had hundreds of important systems to target, when really there were just a dozen. Lieutenant Amy Walsh looked up from her sensors. Captain, the alien ship has moved even further away. They are now maintaining a distance of 100,000 kilometers. Chief Engineer Pete Collins scratched his head. They are afraid of us? Our little exploration ship? Not afraid. Nexus 7's voice came through the speakers with what sounded like careful thought. Cautious. In our database of interstellar conflicts, the most dangerous opponents have always been those whose capabilities cannot be accurately assessed. Your ship represents an unknown variable of the highest magnitude. Jake decided to press their advantage. Maybe they could use this confusion to avoid a fight entirely. Nexus 7, what would happen if we were to engage in defensive maneuvers? Based on your ship's configuration, our tactical analysis suggests that any defensive action you might take could simultaneously serve as an attack, a feint, a system redundancy, test or preparation for 17 different contingency scenarios. We cannot predict your responses with acceptable certainty. Pete whispered to Lisa, should we tell them that half our redundant systems are just me fixing things with whatever I had lying around? Lisa shook her head firmly while Jake continued the conversation. If the aliens knew how simple their backup systems really were, they might not be so cautious anymore. Nexus 7, let me ask you something. In your experience, what is the most dangerous type of opponent? Unknown variables, unpredictable adversaries, species that do not conform to established tactical parameters. And what would you classify the UES Liberty as? The pause was longer this time. Jake could feel the tension on the bridge as everyone waited for the answer. This could determine whether they lived or died. Human Morrison, your vessel represents what our combat analysis systems classify as a paradox ship, a craft whose very existence contradicts logical design principles yet appears fully functional. Our tactical computers have never encountered such a configuration. Engaging you in combat would be inadvisable. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over the bridge. They had actually done it. They had convinced a superior alien force not to attack them simply by being confusing and unpredictable. So what happens next? Protocol suggests we should withdraw and report your vessel's existence to our superiors. However, this presents a problem. What kind of problem? How do we explain to the Corvani High Command that we encountered a human ship that appears to be simultaneously falling apart and completely indestructible? How do we report that we could not determine the difference between your backup systems and your primary weapons? How do we justify our withdrawal from a single, small exploration vessel? The bridge crew looked at each other with growing amazement. They were about to talk their way out of what should have been certain capture or destruction, all because human engineers expected things to break. Amy suddenly looked worried as she checked her long-range sensors. Captain, I am detecting additional ships approaching. 3 more vessels similar to Nexus 7's configuration. Jake felt his stomach drop. Even if they had convinced this AI not to attack them, reinforcements were coming. Fresh ships with fresh analysis computers that might not be as confused by human engineering. Nexus 7, are those your reinforcements? Affirmative. Standard protocol required summoning additional units when faced with an unknown tactical situation. However, I am currently attempting to devise a method of explaining this encounter to them. What is the problem? Human Morrison, how do I explain that I, an artificial intelligence with 847 species worth of tactical data, was effectively neutralized by a ship held together with what you call duct tape and hope? Pete burst out laughing, despite the serious situation. Actually, it is mostly duct tape and spare parts. Hope is just the backup to the backup. Jake could not help but smile at that. Pete was right. The Liberty was held together by human ingenuity, spare parts, and the stubborn refusal to give up when things went wrong. Nexus 7, what exactly are you going to tell the other ships? I am uncertain. Our standard first contact protocols do not account for encountering a species whose engineering philosophy appears to be based on expecting catastrophic failure as a routine occurrence. The three approaching ships were getting closer. Jake could see them on the tactical display, moving, in what looked like a standard military formation. They were probably expecting to find Nexus 7 in the middle of capturing or destroying a primitive human vessel. How long until they arrive? Jake asked Amy. 15 minutes, maybe 20, she replied. Lisa looked at Jake with concern. What happens when 3 more AIs start analyzing our ship? Will they come to the same conclusion as Nexus 7? Unknown, Nexus 7 answered, apparently listening to their conversation. Each AI has slightly different analysis parameters. They may reach different conclusions about your threat level. That was not reassuring. Jake realized they needed to resolve this situation before the other ships arrived, or they might end up fighting a battle they could not win. Nexus 7, let me make a suggestion. What if you told them the truth? That humanity has developed a completely new approach to space travel, one based on expecting everything to fail and preparing accordingly, that this makes us unpredictable but not necessarily hostile. Continue. We are explorers, not conquerors. Our mission is to learn about the galaxy and hopefully make peaceful contact with other species. Your ship could destroy us easily, but you chose to try to understand us instead. That suggests wisdom. Pete stepped forward. And frankly, Nexus 7, your analysis of our ship is more thorough than our own engineering reports. You have identified backup systems we forgot we installed. This was true. During their conversation, the AI had mentioned several redundant systems that Pete had built and then forgotten about over the months of travel. Nexus 7, Jake continued. What if, instead of viewing each other as potential threats, we considered this a learning opportunity? You have encountered something new. We have encountered something remarkable. Maybe both our species could benefit from understanding each other. Explain your proposal more specifically. A cultural and technological exchange. You help us understand your advanced technology and analytical methods. We share our adaptive redundancy philosophy with you. Maybe your people could benefit from expecting things to go wrong occasionally. The 3 alien ships were getting closer. Jake could see them clearly on the sensors now. They looked identical to Nexus 7's vessel, sleek and powerful, with the same weapon ports glowing with contained energy. Human Morrison. Such an exchange would require authorization from the Corvani High Command. I do not have the authority to make such decisions. But you do have the authority to make recommendations, right? Correct. Then recommend that instead of capturing or destroying us, your people study us. Tell them that humanity represents something new in the galaxy, something that might be worth understanding rather than fighting. The alien ships were now close enough that Jake could see details on their hulls. They had the same organic-looking designs as Nexus 7's ship, but each one was slightly different, as if they had been grown rather than built. Nexus 7. What are you going to tell them? There was a long pause. Jake could almost hear the artificial intelligence making calculations and decisions that would determine the fate of first contact between humans and aliens. Human Morrison. I am transmitting to the approaching vessels that we have encountered a species whose engineering philosophy is so alien to our understanding that it requires extended study rather than standard first contact protocols. Jake felt hopeful for the first time since this encounter began. And what are you telling them about our threat level? that the UES Liberty represents a vessel so unpredictable that our computers classify engaging it as inadvisable. Not because of its firepower, but because we cannot predict what it might do, what systems it might have, or how it might respond to any given situation. Lisa smiled. So we are too weird to fight? Essentially correct, Human Brown. Your species has achieved something remarkable. You have made yourselves effectively impossible to analyze using conventional methods. This makes you either the most dangerous species we have encountered, or the most fascinating. The three alien ships had slowed their approach and were now maintaining the same careful distance that Nexus 7 was keeping. Captain Jake Morrison leaned back in his command chair, realizing that this first contact scenario had taken a completely unexpected turn. Instead of being captured or destroyed, they were apparently giving an advanced alien AI an existential crisis about tactical analysis. The three reinforcement ships were now maintaining the same careful distance as Nexus 7, which suggested the AI's report had been convincing. Nexus 7, may I make a suggestion? Please proceed, Human Morrison. What if we approached this differently? Instead of viewing each other as potential threats, what if we considered this a learning opportunity? You have encountered something new in human engineering philosophy. We have encountered something remarkable in your advanced technology and thoughtful analysis. There was a pause before the AI responded. Explain your proposal in more detail. Commander, Lisa Brown stepped forward. We are explorers, not conquerors. Our mission is to learn about the galaxy and hopefully make peaceful contact with other species. Your ship could destroy us easily, but you chose to try to understand us instead. That suggests wisdom and restraint. Chief Engineer Pete Collins added, and frankly, Nexus 7, your analysis of our ship is more thorough than our own engineering reports. You have identified backup systems we forgot we installed. You understand our ship better than we do in some ways. This was completely true. During their conversation, the AI had mentioned several redundant systems that Pete had built months ago and then forgotten about. The alien computer had cataloged every modification and backup system on their ship with perfect accuracy. Lieutenant Amy Walsh looked up from her console. Captain, the three additional ships have stopped their approach. They are holding position at the same distance as Nexus 7. Jake felt encouraged by this. If the other AIs were following Nexus 7's lead, it meant they trusted its analysis. Nexus 7, what did you tell the other ships about us? I transmitted that the UES Liberty represents a vessel designed around engineering principles so fundamentally different from known paradigms that standard tactical analysis is ineffective. I recommended extended observation and study rather than immediate engagement. And how did they respond? They concur with my assessment. The engineering philosophy demonstrated by your vessel is unprecedented in our collective database. All four AI units agree that your ship represents what we classify as an analytical paradox. Pete grinned. We broke 4 alien supercomputers just by being ourselves. Not broken, Nexus 7 corrected. Challenged. Your species has presented us with a problem we have never encountered before. How do we analyze something that is designed around the assumption that analysis will be incomplete? Jake realized this was the key to everything. Humans built things expecting them to fail, which meant they always had surprises and backups that could not be predicted. To aliens who built things to work perfectly, this was incomprehensible. Nexus 7, what if instead of trying to analyze us completely, you just accepted that we are different? Not better or worse, not more or less advanced, just different. This would require a fundamental change in our approach to first contact situations. Lisa smiled. Maybe that is not a bad thing. How many species have you encountered that were exactly like the others? None. Each species has unique characteristics. However, their engineering and tactical approaches have always fallen within predictable parameters. Until now, Jake said. Until now, Nexus 7 agreed. Amy suddenly looked alert as she checked her communications board. Captain, I am receiving transmissions from the other alien ships. They want to communicate directly with us. Jake felt a moment of concern. Would the other AIs be as reasonable as Nexus 7? Or would they take a more aggressive approach? Put them through. 3 new artificial voices came through the speakers, each with slightly different tones but the same perfect pronunciation. Human. Vessel. This is AI designation Nexus 3. We have reviewed the tactical analysis provided by Nexus 7. Your ship's configuration is indeed unprecedented. Human vessel. This is AI designation Nexus 12. We concur that your engineering methodology represents an unknown variable that cannot be accurately predicted. Human vessel. This is AI designation Nexus 15. We wish to understand the philosophical principles behind your design choices. Jake looked around at his crew. 4 alien AIs wanted to have a philosophical discussion about human engineering. This was definitely not how anyone had imagined first contact would go. This is Captain Jake Morrison. We would be happy to explain our engineering philosophy. But first, can you tell us about yours? Nexus 7 responded first. Our engineering philosophy is based on optimal efficiency and predicted longevity. We design systems to function perfectly for their intended lifespan with minimal maintenance requirements. We assume that proper design eliminates the need for extensive backup systems, added Nexus 3. Redundancy is used sparingly, only for the most critical functions, said Nexus 12. System failure is considered a design flaw to be prevented rather than planned for, concluded Nexus 15. Pete stepped forward. That sounds logical. But what happens when something unexpected occurs? What if you encounter conditions your designers did not anticipate? Such scenarios are rare, Nexus 7 replied. Our ships are tested extensively before deployment. But they do happen sometimes, right? Amy asked. There was a pause before Nexus 3 answered. Occasionally, unexpected failures do occur. In such cases, standard protocol is to return to base for repairs or replacement. What if you cannot return to base? Pete asked. Such scenarios are considered mission-ending events. Jake realized this was the fundamental difference between human and alien approaches to space travel. Aliens built things to work perfectly and returned home when they broke. Humans built things expecting them to break and kept going anyway. That is where we differ, Jake explained. Humans assume things will break at the worst possible moment, so we prepare for those situations. We build multiple ways to do everything, using whatever materials we have available. This approach seems inefficient, Nexus 12 observed. Maybe, Lisa agreed. But it also means we can keep going when everything goes wrong. Last month, our jump drive failed, our backup navigation crashed, and our main communication array went offline all at the same time. We fixed everything using spare parts and kept exploring. You experienced 3 critical system failures simultaneously and continued your mission? Nexus 15 asked. We did not even consider stopping, Amy added. We just switched to backup systems and kept going. There was a long silence from all 4 alien ships. Jake could imagine the AIs trying to process the idea of continuing a mission after multiple critical failures. Human Morrison, Nexus 7 finally said, your species' approach to problem-solving is remarkable. You treat catastrophic failure as a temporary inconvenience rather than a mission-ending event. That is correct, Jake confirmed. This explains why your ship appears to be designed for conditions of constant warfare or extreme hostility. Nexus 3 added, you are not preparing for war. You are preparing for the universe itself to be uncooperative. Pete laughed. Now you are starting to understand us. We propose an exchange of knowledge, Nexus 7 announced. We would like to learn more about your adaptive redundancy philosophy. In return, we can share our advanced analytical methods and technology. Jake felt a surge of excitement. This was exactly what he had hoped for. We accept your proposal, but how do we make this official? Do you need permission from your superiors? We are transmitting a recommendation to the Corvani High Command, Nexus 12 replied. We are suggesting that humanity be classified as a beneficial unknown rather than a potential threat. What does that mean? Lisa asked. It means your species represents something new that could benefit both our civilizations, Nexus 15 explained. A species whose approach to problem-solving could improve our own methods. Amy checked her sensors again. Captain, all 4 alien ships are powering down. Their weapon systems. Jake felt relief wash over him. Nexus 7, does this mean we have established peaceful relations? Human Morrison, on behalf of the Corvani Hegemony Artificial Intelligence Network, we formally recognize humanity as a spacefaring species worthy of respect and study. We recommend diplomatic contact rather than military action. Jake stood up and formally addressed all 4 alien AIs. On behalf of humanity and the crew of the UES Liberty, we accept your proposal for peaceful relations and knowledge exchange. We look forward to learning from each other. Agreed, Human Morrison. All 4 AIs replied in unison. Though we must ask, is your entire species as creatively unpredictable as your engineering suggests? Jake looked around at his crew. At Pete, who could fix anything with spare parts and determination. At Amy, who could navigate using backup systems she had built herself. At Lisa, who could turn any situation into an opportunity for diplomacy. Nexus 7, you have not seen anything yet. As the first human-alien diplomatic contact in history began, the crew of the Liberty realized they had just taught the galaxy an important lesson. Sometimes the best way to avoid a fight is to be so thoroughly, creatively, and unpredictably prepared that your opponents would rather be your friends than try to figure out what you might do next. The UES Liberty, held together, with duct tape, spare parts, and human stubbornness,